This is a live writing session number 11. I'm working on the romance book Golden Dusk at Makena. It's a beach in Maui, and that's where I'm basing this trilogy from, the Maui Desire Series. I also have a reader magnet or a short story that you can download soon from my website, and that way you can actually get a sampler of if you'd like to read my books. I make those available for free. You just, of course, give me your email and get on my wonderful mailing list so you can have the experience of reading my different romance books. So let's get started. Today I'm going to be working on chapter 13 of Golden Dusk at Makena, and this is where Dana, the main female character, and Nolan, the main male character, head over to the Fairmont. It's another beautiful location in Maui. It's a spectacular resort, and all the rooms are suites. So you don't have to say, oh, low room, high room. Forget that. They just use suites. And Nolan and Dana are going to go over there for an executive networking function. That way my story isn't completely centered on the Grand Wailea Resort, which is spectacular. I've been there and wow, it's impressive. And that's why I do these stories, and I base them, my travel stories, base them on beautiful aspirational locations, so you too can go to the location and experience what it's like in my books. So let me get my notes up. One moment, please. All right, and we will see if I can enjoy my technology. I've got my notes up here, ready to dictate. Okay, so let's get that started. Okay. Hi, Nancy. Thank you very much for stopping by. And anyone who stops by, please put a comment in the chat. I'm looking down at my chat here. I'll be able to answer it as soon as I can. Thank you very much for watching. Let me get the voice recorder app up. So I just simply use the voice memos app on the iPad. I mean, I don't use any super crazy technology. I just use the voice memos app on the iPad. I just simply hit record. Nothing too exciting, honestly. And yeah, and then it just gives me a transcription. I copy that, and then I begin the very laborious process of editing it down. But I found I can get usually 7,000 words a day, so I don't have to worry too much. The editing time is a lot higher than me typing like crazy. I'm a pretty good typist, but I found my dictation is better. So that's how I roll. So let's get started. Okay. Chapter 13, Golden Dusk at Makena. Dana and Nolan finished their quick lunch, and they decided to head over early to the Fairmont in the afternoon for the executive networking reception. Dana told Nolan that this was a invitation-only setup where they had a bunch of competitors and also people that they were trying to court, where they wanted an executive networking function off-site from the Grand Wailea. That way it made the experience of the convention much larger than just staying in one single ballroom. They took the shuttle that Dana and Lucy had set up between the Grand Wailea and the Fairmont. She explained to Nolan that they thought about just having people drive their cars, but realized after they queried a lot of people that it was actually much better for them to just decide, let's see, go live here, just decide to use a shuttle setup. So they had a shuttle running the 3/4 of a mile back and forth all day during the convention. And Nolan thought about it for a moment and said, you know, that's actually pretty brilliant, because so many times I've had to go run to my car, go drive around, get it to park again, and it's a real pain. And she said, we thought about that too. We've had convention experiences for the same, so it's way, way better. And sure enough, just as they walked out, the mini tour bus showed up. It was in a beautiful black vehicle with comfortable seating. They hopped in with several other people. Dana introduced Nolan to a couple of executives that she had met online in a Zoom meeting, and they quickly became friends. Dana explained what Nolan was doing there, doing the documentation, and one of the executives told her that, oh, that's absolutely brilliant. That's a great idea, because in the end, we have to sell the story of our product and the people behind it. It's just not a widget on the shelf at Walmart. With that, Dana laughed and blushed a little bit and said, well, hopefully we're producing a lot better products than what'll go on the shelf next to the blenders and the microwaves. Everyone had a good laugh at that. Dana continued talking with him while Nolan adjusted took another seat and then began filming everybody just using his phone. That way he didn't have a big camera in everybody's face. He had his main camera set up with him, but he wanted to make sure that that was only on site so it wasn't so obtrusive. As they arrived at the Fairmont and rolled into the parking area, they pulled up to the main entrance and hopped out and walked in. The Fairmont entrance was absolutely beautiful, well apportioned, tall ceilings, and beautiful stone floors. Immediately, the manager walked up to Dana and said, "Oh, thank you for coming. It's finally good to see you after all this running around. I'm sorry I missed you earlier in the week. I had an event that I had to go to, and my apologies." And Dana said, "Oh, no, not of course. I understand that you're a busy woman, and we've got to keep things going." Dana led everyone, including Nolan, to the Royal Fountain Terrace. And as they walked in, they saw that the catering was already set up with the food, with the beautiful stainless food portions, and they also had a bar ready for all the executives. Nolan walked over and looked at it and talked to the staff real quick, and they said, "Oh, this is well set up. We've done these events many times, but it's pretty brilliant that they set this up. It's a little bit more private." As people began showing up for the afternoon networking session, Nolan was thoroughly impressed. He looked around and saw everyone was sharp, and he saw a couple faces he recognized from events that Olivia had set up. Dana came over to him and said, "Everybody already signed an agreement that they have no problem filming. I don't know anybody that's going to be cagey about it, but certainly, of course." And Nolan nodded. "Oh yeah, I don't want to get into anybody's business. I'll just stand back, but you will be the star of the show." Dana, by this moment, had already become quite comfortable with Nolan, working side by side with him. So she finally took a risk and winked at him and said, "Hey, this is working out pretty well. I really enjoy this experience." And he leaned in and said, "Absolutely, me too. I can't wait till there's a lull in things so we can sit down and chat." Just then, one of the executives came up in his Hawaiian shirt and khakis and said, "Oh, Dana, it's so good to meet you." Nolan slid back a little bit and began filming their interaction. And Dana continued to talk to the man who had said he'd been following her rise to stardom so long, and he explained that, "I was really impressed with how well you and Lucy have built up your company. It's actually taken a lot of work. A lot of people in this B2B software as a service system just fail because it's not easy and somebody can just copy your model." Dana quietly reacted and told him that they had several competitors that came online, but they were able to defend their patent and design. It wasn't easy, and there's always something coming up new. As the space slowly filled up, Nolan backed off and caught a wide view of the Royal Fountain Terrace. It's a beautiful space, but it's also contained. And one of the networking people came up to Nolan and said, "Oh, this is a beautiful location, isn't it?" And Nolan locked his camera down and turned his face to the woman, and he said he looked like he recognized her, and she said, "Oh, I know you. You're the cameraman from the Moscow event. That was a great event." And he nodded and smiled, and he apologized, not remembering her name. She said, "Oh, I never introduced myself. This is a great location. I had an event last year at the Palm Court where I attended an executive networking function just like this, And though it's a little bit prettier down there on the grass, I have to say that the screaming kids in the pool were, shall we say, a distraction. Nolan agreed with her and said, yeah, Dana and Lucy really put together a brilliant location. That this still showcases the beauty of Hawaii without being in a ballroom under LED lights. She agreed, shook Nolan's hand, and then went back to the crowd. He followed her and then noticed that Dana noticed her as well, noticed them talking. And he looked up and waved at her, and she waved back, and the woman started talking with Dana as well. After several minutes, Dana excused herself and came over to Nolan and said, oh, this is working out so well. Multiple people have commented they really appreciate this Royal Fountain Terrace. It's much more comfortable to walk on, and even though the grass is prettier, the kids screaming in the pool and the people walk by just kind of ruin the vibe. And Nolan told her, you guys chose brilliantly. I've talked to Janice over there, and she congratulated you really well. It's really impressive. Dana and Nolan chatted for a bit about some different visions, and Nolan said, yeah, I'm going to capture the scene and also you interacting with the people. You look great. For as stressful as this is, and how much you've been running around and how early you woke up, honestly, he leaned in closely and said, you're actually really beautiful looking today under all that stress. It's as though you thrive off of it. Dana smiled and looked at the concrete for a moment, and then looked over at the white tablecloths and stainless food trays that people were walking up to, and then she looked back and said, I love it when something comes together like this. Being an operations person, it just gives me a thrill. And Nolan agreed and said, this is definitely not for everybody, and you putting this together, it's impressive. That I don't know any other word to say it. And Dana reached out and touched his shoulder and said, thanks, I really appreciate that. And Nolan smiled at her and then leaned in and gave her a quick hug and said, okay, go get back to your customers here. She paused for a moment, like she didn't really want to leave. Nolan sighed and he said, shoo, we'll talk later, don't you worry. She smiled at that and turned around and walked back to the crowd. As the reception went on for the 2 hours that it was scheduled for, people were laughing and multiple business cards were exchanged, and Nolan did his best to capture that without capturing their conversations. He knew he could overwrite the audio. He wasn't worried about that, but he wanted to capture the relationships that Dana was facilitating. As she walked around the room, there was always a beehive of activity around her. For being such a young executive, she had actually done very well for her. 2 hours later, after the event was over, and people were slowly filing out, the sun had begun slowly making its way towards the horizon, streaking more and more yellow and golden light across the space. And the conference bus was scheduled to run until 6 p.m. in case there were any stragglers. As people slowly filtered out, Dana went over and thanked the staff and the servers for all their hard work. And Nolan focused on this interaction too, and she didn't notice, but he made sure to capture this. And since she was carrying a microphone on her, he was able to catch the voice snippets of everything. Once they finished up and everyone left and the catering staff began cleaning up, Nolan walked with Dana through the beautiful portion Fairmont Hotel, and he said, that was incredible. This is so much less stressful than other events I've been to. I don't know how you did it, but you did a great job. He leaned over and gave her a hug and held the hug longer than would be socially acceptable for somebody in business. And she didn't flinch away, but instead she leaned her head up against him for just a moment. And then when he released her, she turned around and said, I am super beat. We still need to get dinner, and then there's one more networking function. He said, well, let's go get a little small cortado coffee, and then we'll forge on, shall we? They walked downstairs, and as they walked out, or they walked through the facility, they saw the families walking through and a couple of energetic kids having fun in the space, and their parents chasing them around. Dana looked at them longingly and thought about her future. Boom. Alrighty, that was 12 minutes of dictation. That was a shorter chapter, and these chapters through the conference schedule are going to be shorter because they're hitting emotional beats to build up the relationship between Nola and Dana. They're going to go into a lot of challenges, some difficult situations, but the whole idea of this story is to reveal the romance and the budding feelings that they have for each other that were completely unexpected. And that's the fun part about writing stories and novels like this in beautiful locations like Maui, is that it's a perfect setting for a romance to bud. In a way, it's a small town romance because Maui is not that big, and the Wailea area is not that big either, but boy, it's beautiful. I've been there a couple times, and I can't complain. I'm looking to go back to do some advertising and promotion for the Maui Desire Series. So let's see how many words that netted. That was a much shorter chapter. We're going to find out here real quick. Oh yeah. Copy, and let me open Scrivener. Scrivener is the writing software that I use for my novels. And chapter 13, raw text. Okay. And we've got 1,906 words. Yes! That was a perfect length of chapter. I was hoping it would dial in right about there because I want to have these chapters a little bit faster paced, and that'll work just perfectly for the pacing in the story to reveal these emotional tidbits as we go along. I will have more live stream sessions as we show up. Let's see who else showed up. Oh, thank you very much for showing up there. Perfect. And yeah, Nancy, thank you very much. I tried to convey the reception in my mind and then convey it out. One detail I forgot to add is there's a water fountain, a real beautiful water fountain. I'll have to hand type that in to the story here. In fact, make sure to describe the water fountain at the terrace. Good. I added an extra note because it is a very beautiful location. It is a bit more private, and that's the whole idea of that moment. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out links below in the description, and also visit my website, aaronbelsing.com, where I have my romance, and also my thrillers and nonfiction books at aaronrlinsdau.com. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.